Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the nearby nation, you asked for it, and here it is, the computer building process. So first and foremost, we're going to go over the parts that I chose for this build. So we'll do that right now. But before I do any of this, don't forget, if you really enjoy these videos, leave a like down below. It helps out quite a bit. And it's just a button, you just have to press it, and yeah. So here we go, let's get into the build. So when I was choosing for a build, I wanted the newest and the best out there. So there's a couple of things that I had to like balance out, so we'll go over this. First and foremost, for the CPU, we are going with an Intel Core i7 processor. This is the newest processor they have, 4th generation, and it is clocked at 3.5, but with the cooler up top, the H100i, I have seen people overclock it all the way to 4.6, 4.7. I'll probably stay at 4.4 if the chip, again, it is like a luck of the draw type thing. It does matter depending on your chip itself, whether it is going to be overclockable or not, but we'll see how we're going to do that and if it'll work. So we have an H100i cooler, one of the best self-sustaining water cooling systems that there is out there right now. We have the MAXIMUS 4 Hero. This is a new board that just came out for the LGA 1150 socket. Right now, Maximus, this is like the new Hero. They never actually had a Hero brand before, but this time they do, and we're gonna try it out and see how it works. Most of the time when I choose a motherboard, I usually skip out on the motherboard and get like a $100 one. This one was a $200 motherboard, and compared to the other top of the line ones, it's really, really, really up there. So I do a lot of reviews, like reading reviews and watching reviews before I buy anything, so I made sure that everything that I have is going to be sufficient enough for this build. Some of the things had a little bit of bad reviews, but most of them were actually pretty good reviews on everything. The only thing that I did have that does have like kind of like a bad review is down there on the floor. I'm not going to pick it up, but I have a Western Digital 1.5 terabyte drive. It's a green drive. Some people were saying that it, you know, it is supposed to be like, what is it, energy efficient, so it'll turn off every once in a while, but I'm using that drive for recording purposes, not for operating system or anything like that, just for backup data. So we shouldn't have a problem with that. So for the RAM, we chose the Ripjaws X 1600 megahertz RAM. These are 4 DIMMs, 4 gigabyte DIMMs. So instead of choosing, say, 2 8 gigabyte DIMMs to get to 16 gigs, I chose 4 gigabytes to get to 16 gigs. That way I populate all of the RAM slots on my motherboard. So we have a off-the-wall, off-the-brand LITE-ON DVD drive. That's an OS version, I do believe. We have 220 gig 3K SSDs from HyperX. These are comparable to the Samsung ones, and some people have even suggested that they are faster in some points and views. So we're going to try these out. One of these are going to be for the operating system, the other one's going to be for games. So that's going to be pretty awesome having that. We have 2 GeForce GTX 760s. They are the EVGA versions, and they are the ones with the custom coolers. So that's for overclocking purposes. Now you can buy, for $10 more, you can buy the EVGA, the same model right here, but overclocked already. I figured, why not overclock it yourself? You don't have to pay the extra 20 bucks for both of them. So there we go. Now behind us we have a Corsair C70. It is a Vengeance case. It is a freaking amazing case. I love the look of it. It's got military clips on it to take the door panel off. I always hated the case screws that you can get right here. I hate these. But yeah, that is a lot easier to just take the side off. It stores perfectly. There's so much freaking space in there for fans and all that. So yeah, that's gonna be amazing. Up top we have an 850 watt Cooler Master M2. It is the Silent Pro. So it's gonna be a modular power supply. It's somewhat modular. I've never had a modular power supply before, so when I was looking at modular power supplies, I didn't realize that there's ones that are fully module and there's one that are half module. The ones that are half module usually have the all the power that you actually need, like the power for the motherboard and all that. They actually have those cabled in instead of modular. Makes sense. So that is like sort of like a half modular cabling, and that's about it. I think that's our whole setup right there. Let's get this thing put together, shall we? So we will see you guys in the next part. Okay, so the first step that I usually do when installing anything into a computer is I usually make sure that all the cables are there, and then I personally install the motherboard. A lot of people will put the chip in the motherboard and all that, and then work on it afterwards and put it in the motherboard after. I just like to do everything inside of the computer, as well as there's enough room to put the power supply in there later on, and everything else, there's enough room for all the drive bays and all that, so I know exactly where the cables are going. So, first thing I did was I slid the motherboard in. The box was pretty upright and straight. It came with some parts right here. So it came with your motherboard / hard drive screws. There's some SSD screws. These are for the case fans, which the fans are actually installed, but if you ever do install any more extra fans, which I probably will later on, there's some case fans, and then I'm not sure exactly what are those for. Those are for cable ties. Oh no, those aren't for cable ties. It does not say what those are for. Interesting. I have no clue what those are for, but hey, they're long screws and they're used for something, so probably not right now. But this is for my cooler. I wasn't sure. My old case didn't have this, didn't have a part in the back. If I lift this up and turn it around, you can see that reaching the back side of the motherboard is quite easy. I was like, oh no, I installed the motherboard, and then I realized that I'm going to have to uninstall it so I can put the piece on there, and no, that's not how this works. There's quite enough room on the back for that, so as well as look at this. This is pretty sweet. This is all the cables for the case itself, and they're already put together down the side of the back. So this is the first case that I've ever owned that actually has cable management holes in it, so it'll actually look nice and neat. The last two cases I bought, I don't spend a lot of money on cases due to the fact that I didn't realize that how nice and neat you can have it on the inside. This one will be nice and neat due to the cable management. My last case was like $20. This one's like $110. But it's totally worth it. So we'll be right back after the next step. Stay tuned. I forgot one other thing. Inside of the case itself, the Maximus, the parts you get, the extra parts that you get inside of it, if I can say, you get a lot of SATA cables. So I think you get like 6 SATA cables. I think there's 2 in each one of these. You also get labeling for your hard drives. Since I'll have 3 hard drives, it might be good to label it. You get your slide bridge right here. So if you ever need to do anything with slide, like I'm going to have to, this is really cool. Instead of using this cable right here and trying to find, actually it's these small ones right here. All these small ones right here, instead of trying to find it on the motherboard later on, you can actually plug it into this and then just one slot it into the motherboard. I probably won't use these just because it's just an extra piece in between, but it's a pretty good idea to have these if you want to have them. So, alright, we'll be right back. Okay, so you can see we just got done installing the Corsair H100i. There it is right there in all its glory. So now what we have to do is we have to install the awesome CPU. It's right here. So I'm going to open that box up and then we'll be right back. So inside the box you have the fan, which we won't be using because we'll be using our own custom fan, this one right here, the Corsair H100i. And then you have the 1150 chip, which means it has 1150 pins, not on the CPU. I do love when they change this, but the pins are actually on the motherboard. I remember back when I was in high school and we were actually installing Intel Core 2 Duos, they actually did have the pins on the chip itself. A lot of them got bent by unknown high school students that just didn't know exactly and how expensive these things are. So we'll be right back after we, actually I should be able to open this up myself right there, and there you go, you can see right there the pins. I'm having to do this a weird way because I don't have a stand for my camera, so I'm actually having to like one hand this, so that's why I'm doing parts and bits and pieces at one time. So there's that right there, and all we gotta do is get the chip in there. This is a very expensive chip, so I'm not gonna ruin it, so we'll be right back. Once the chip's set in there as shown, you can wiggle it around a little bit, make sure it's actually stuck in there, which it is. And there you go, the arrow matches right there. So right there, arrow to where the arrow is, and there you go. So that's what that is. Once you put this thing down and pop it in place, which just goes like this, that plastic piece will pop off and you will no longer have to worry about that. So there you go. The chip is in place and set in there. So now all we got to do is install this H100i cooler onto it using the custom stand, or custom brackets, I mean, right here. That's the custom bracket, as well as on the other side of me, got my keys in my wallet and all that. We have these 2 brackets. I do believe it is this bracket. This bracket is AMD.
So we will install this bracket on there. I will double check just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that this one's AMD. But we'll be back in just a little bit. Okay, so we have officially installed the Corsair H100i. It was installed using these case screws, which I was talking about earlier. It's weird that it actually has case screws for the install, and it has a bracket on the back. And we did use the 4-prong bracket like I was talking about, which means it is Intel. The other one is AMD. The pipes run pretty smooth right here, straight down into a straight line, or curved line. Right here we have a SATA cable, SATA power anyways, as well as it's plugged into the motherboard right there for power itself. And this thing right here, you have 2 of these. This right here can control up to 4 fans. Now it's plugged into these 2 fans right now, but I could plug, say, these 2 case fans right over here into it. I'm not going to do that, however. I'm going to be using the motherboard's case fan for that. So, but it is a good option in case you did want to power everything and actually control everything with the Corsair fan. So other than that, next thing we're going to install is probably the RAM. Easy install, so we'll do that right now. Alright, like I was saying, the RAM is probably the easiest thing to install. There it is right there. It comes with a nice little case, or case badge if you want to use that. And basically it just goes into these 4 slots right here. You want to make sure they're all open. Oh, there we go. Those go open. What about these? Oh, these don't open. Ah, never mind. It's only one side open. They really need to not color those that color then. But yeah, if you look to the side, those are colored that way, but they actually don't go back. I'm used to both sides being able to do that. So basically we'll just pop the RAM out like so. And these are the same, all the same DIMMs, so it really doesn't matter which slots they go into. They just all 4 need to go into here. And I hope we're not going to have too much trouble right here. No, looks like we'll be good. Turn that baby around. You can see there's a slot right there that goes right there into that slot, so make sure you get that lined up correctly. And it just goes in there like that. A little bit of hard pressure on both sides, and there you go. It is now perfectly installed. Same thing to do with the other 3, and we'll be right back. And there we go. Although I did not buy the RAM based on its looks, it does match this board quite well, so there we go right there. And now, we have all this cabling we're going to do. We're going to hook all this cable up to the specifics parts on the motherboard. As you can see, this is just a HD audio header. You got your 2 fans. We're going to plug those in. You got all these small little midgety ones that need to be plugged in according to what the US or the motherboard book says. There's your USB header. Now what was cool was this adapter comes right here with the case. So this adapter goes onto the USB fronts up there, so you don't have to really worry too much about that. So there you go, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, it seems like it's all done now, at least when it comes down to the cabling. All the cables went right there, and I did end up using what I didn't think I was going to use, that extra piece that came with the motherboard, just because, I don't know, it was a lot easier to mess with. As well as that's the fan controller. This fan controller goes to that fan. It goes underneath here and into here, as well as this fan goes underneath here and into here to right here, just to make it look a little bit cleaner. Over here, this is our audio, and then right here is our USB header. So that is exactly how I have that all set up. It looks a little bit cleaner. So now let's get the power supply in there and get that going. We'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, the 850 watt power supply is now installed in there. This cable I forgot earlier, it actually goes to the CPU fan on the H100i. Basically what it does is it controls it software-wise, so we have that going into a USB header. Now, we have our cabling to the motherboard, the power for the motherboard. I forgot what that's called. I do know stuff about computers, but yeah. Anyways. I think it's a 24 pin or something like that. It's called by pin, I do believe. But there is that right there. Here is our 2 8-pin, or actually, will they be 8-pin? Yeah, they will be 8-pin. 8-pin or 2 4-pin. You can split them off. For the SLI, awesome SLI stuff going on there. That is for the GPUs. Just putting them right there right now. So, yep, that is installed. Now we do have all this cabling over here to worry about. As you can see, we have the power cable, and then here's all the modular stuff. So we will get down to that, and we'll see you guys in the next video after we install the next part of the video after we install the GTX 760s. Okay, so the two GTX 760s are now installed. I was a little bit wrong. This was just an extra cable for motherboard power. As you can see, one's already plugged in right there, so we'll drop that in the back behind the case. But I rewired all the cables. As you can see right here, we have two plugged into right there, and we're going to get the eSATA cables being plugged into right there when we have a chance. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. Our SATA headers are right there, so that'll be really good because our drives are going to go right here. Everything else looks pretty awesome. We have the power cable to, or the USB CORSAIR cable going underneath the two EVGAs. In the back, it looks pretty sweet as well. You get the two EVGAs right there. I thought they were going to be butted up next to each other. Luckily, there's a little bit of space for air room. Most slide setups I've seen, they're like really close to each other, so I'm kind of happy about that. Now we just need to install our slide bridge, because if we don't install this, we won't have slide, so it really won't matter. So we'll install this and get our hard drive set up, and we'll be ready to go. So we'll be right back with that. Hey, Nearby Nation, we are complete, actually, surprisingly enough. This is how it's going to look right here. The only thing I do have one thing left. I still have to put the, I didn't notice, I forgot I need to put the CD-ROM drive in. Other than that, we'll be done and good. So basically, this was a huge intaking to get it to look this neat and nice. As you can see, all the cables down here go into this routing, to that routing, to that routing, up to that routing. So, you guys want to see what the back looks like? Yeah, it's kind of a mess. Oh, let's pick this baby up. It's kind of heavy. And that is what the back looks like. All this cabling in one centralized place. Yeah, that's a lot of cabling. Luckily enough, the panel right here has a bevel outage. You can see right there, so I was lucky when it came to that, so this cable is not a problem in getting the case together. So yeah, this baby is complete for the most part. I just need to get the CD-ROM drive in there, and that'll be done. Or DVD-ROM drive, I should say. But yeah, I think it came out looking pretty sweet. I can't wait to turn this baby on and see how much power I get out of it. So we will see you guys in the next video. Well, actually, I'm going to do a brief summary overview before we end, and then we'll see you guys in the next video. So 1 second.